you'll work 100 hours a week. You'll never
Sure.
have a life outside of that,
Yeah.
And as I interviewed people that had worked in Wall Street, it was like that, Sometimes they worked
Yeah.
7 days a week, and it
Yeah.
just didn't seem like the life that I really wanted to live. I mean, the money seemed appealing, but
Yeah.
not the lifestyle. Raising money is a big part of it, and
Mm.
trying to become a big unicorn company.
Mm.
And what I didn't like about that is it forced growth for the sake of growth's
Mm.
sake. And then when you leave, you feel like that was a part of your identity when you realize it really
Yeah.
wasn't.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not who you are. At the end of the
Mm.
day, everybody who has success to me is freedom to do things that you want to do, freedom to spend time with people that you want to spend time with, and able to live the life that you want to live.
Well, hey, everybody, and happy January. 2026 is upon us, and I have a fantastic guest to invite into the new year with you. Someone who brings something really different to the table. We have never had a guest who offers these services and has this path in front of us. So, David Gilbert, welcome to the show.
Thanks. I appreciate you inviting me here, and I'm glad to be here. Happy to be
Yeah,
here.
well, we're delighted to have you to kick off this brand new year with us. And before we start diving into all the things that you're passionate about and your story, why don't you share with our listeners a little bit about who you are and the work you do in this world?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I have not taken a traditional career path. Most people don't. I spent about 20 years in tech, building tech companies. Um, Before that, I did real estate development for a little while. So I've kind of been an entrepreneur in a few different spaces: tech, real estate, um, e-commerce, and now I purchased a few businesses, and um, I do fractional consulting and back office accounting and HR, and I own a company where we have a team of 30 that do that. And it's great. And I also own an engineering company, which is completely unrelated. So
I love that.
that's what it is. Yeah.
I love that. And I love that you say that you didn't take a traditional path. Well, few people do, right? Like, so it's like, what is a
Yeah.
traditional path? I think that when we're talking entrepreneurial journey, there are just so many paths that can lead you to what you want to do. So I think that you shared your story with me the other day. And I think that the how you did or why you did what you did was really interesting. So why don't we start there? Like, what made you take this
Sure.
wild entrepreneurial journey that has now unfolded into such different layers?
Yeah. Well, I graduated in from college in finance, and I I was young and I wanted to make money like everybody.
Sure. Yeah.
And I thought, well, I'll probably go move to San Francisco or New York and go work on Wall Street and, you know, do investment banking. Um, that didn't work out, mainly because I started a couple companies and ended up staying where I went to college, and which was in Utah. And I I really fell in love with tech at the time,
Mm,
and one of the reasons I didn't go work on Wall Street is, what I heard is you'll work 100 hours a week, you'll never
sure.
have a life outside of that,
Yeah.
And as I interviewed people that had worked in Wall Street, it was like that, Sometimes they worked
Yeah.
7 days a week, and
Yeah.
just didn't seem like the life that I really wanted to live. I mean, the money seemed appealing, but
Yeah.
not the lifestyle. And um, I wanted to make it work in a different way. So
Sure.
I went the entrepreneurial route and spent, the first part of my career really in real estate and tech, and spent a lot of time um, building up and learning how to market, learning how to code. I taught myself to code, taught
Yeah.
myself how to do marketing. And that was when SEO was really starting. And, I was spending a lot of time going to conferences and flying all over the US. And so it was
Yep.
super, super fun. But I think overall in my career, I was just always trying to, one, learn from my experiences and do things
Sure.
that I felt were having an impact in the world, but also something that I believed in. And then also having a good place for my family. I'm
Yeah.
married, I have 3 kids, and having a really grounded place that they could grow up, and they still don't know what their dad does sometimes. It's like, what does dad do? I don't know. He's not an attorney, he's not a lawyer, he doesn't do anything. I don't know what he does. So it changes frequently.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really fun. I think that it's kind of one of those blessings and curses of the entrepreneurial life that your kids
Yeah.
have to be used to dynamically changing parent.
Yeah.
Mom, do you have a different business now? Is a question
Right.
that I get asked more often than probably most people would ask.
Yeah.
Because I'm a move where the opportunity opens and aligned with you. Like I want to do good work in this world. I want to make an impact, and also I don't want to sacrifice my family for it, right? I don't want to
Yeah.
end up at the end of my path and, oh, yay, I did what I set out to do, but I have a whole, bunch of broken relationships along the road to show for it. Like for me, that's not commensurate with the task, right? So I
No,
I love in
totally.
your story that you interviewed people who had been in Wall Street before you decided to take that plunge. What made you curious to interview people? Because a lot of people will go down a career path blindly. So, what made you take that time to say, wait a minute, do I really, really want this?
Yeah, so I should clarify. I was interviewing people for our tech startup to hire them. So it
Oh,
wasn't interviewing them to go see how they were doing in New York. It was
mm,
interviewing them because they wanted to get away from New York and come work for us at our
aha.
startup. Yeah.
Yeah. It's more like a path validation after the
Yep.
path was chosen than a pre-path. All right, cool. I love that. I love that.
Yep.
So, you now have a business. You exited the tech startup, you
I
grew that
did.
business successfully, and you took it all
Mhm.
the way to an exit.
Close. I sold my equity and then they sold a couple of years later. So
Yeah.
it was about, I think it was about 13 years total.
Yeah.
Um, and we were good size. We had
Yep.
a lot of clients, credit union clients all over the country, a lot
Yeah.
of employees, and it was super fun. It was really,
Yeah.
really, really rewarding experience.
I love that. And then since then, you've taken a, more wandering path of various companies and various journeys. You
Hmm.
have now a fractional executive organization plus an engineering firm. What is the passion behind, your fractional executive firm?
Yeah, I think when we bought the firm, there was a lot of changes that we needed to make
Hmm.
for the vision that we had. And really, the vision that we had for it was we looked at, historically, a lot of companies build out their departments as they grow, right? They build out
Yep.
accounting, they build out their legal department, their IT department, et cetera. And I think with the onset of AI and remote work, a lot of companies will be able to be built without having to hire those people internally. So
Mm,
I always ask the question, if everybody wants to hire A players, they want to hire the best
sure.
of the best.
Yep.
That's easier said than done. Um,
Right.
and I think that will become more difficult over time. But what will become easier is with companies like Proven, with the fractional executive consulting, we get a lot of executives that want to work for us or with us
Mhm.
that have gone through in their careers. They have 20, 30 years experience. They're at the end of their careers and they don't want to work full time, but they want
Mm,
to work with companies where they can make a meaningful impact. And these are
yeah.
people that have taken companies public. They've gone from zero to $500 million in revenue. They've
Wow.
helped expand internationally. So they really have credible backgrounds. And
Yeah.
so I always ask the question, well, would you rather have this person that's, 5 to 10 years experience or rather have a person of 20
Sure.
or 30, right? And
Right.
most people want the experience. The problem is they just can't pay for it. And with
Right.
Proven, the way we've structured it is any company can use these fractional executives and they can have them be a part of their team and help them get the results that they want. And it costs them a lot less and they'll get better results because they
Yeah.
have a person with more experience.
Yeah, and then it's a win-win all around, right? Because your fractional
Yeah.
executives also don't want to be having those 60, 70, 100-hour weeks
Right.
anymore. They want to enjoy a little bit slower pace, but still, I love this whole dynamic of making an impact. It's good for this business owner, it's good for the executive, it's good for the team, and that win-win-win is, I mean, can't get a better business model than a win-win-win-win. Like it's pretty
No, and as companies grow, like I have worked for a, large global organization and I had teams all over the world in Asia and Europe and North America and Latin America. And it was super fun, to visit these places and culturally. But one of the things you realize is all of the C-level executives, maybe with a few exceptions, but the CMO, COO, CFO, CHRO, a lot of them don't do the tasks that you would do at a smaller company, right? They're
Right.
people managers at the end of the day.
Hmm.
And so they end up managing a lot of people. And so the question is do you really need somebody to manage those people or be a
Right.
strategic leader? You know,
Right.
most companies don't need somebody full time to do the things that they aren't actually doing, like a CMO, at a large companies, probably not doing a lot of marketing. They're probably managing the
Right.
managers that are doing the
Doing the
marketing,
marketing.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. In small businesses, I call those the $10,000 an hour tasks, right? If you're not
Yeah,
doing those tasks, who is, right? Are you
right.
spending your time doing the stuff that really kind of anyone could do? Or are you doing the things that are really dialed into your sweet spot? And if you are, those are the ones that that put your time and effort there. And with this fractional
Absolutely.
model, that lets you do that. Really cool.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's a passion of mine. I came across when I bought Proven, I wasn't exactly sure what to expect. And as we bought it and as we kind of looked into the marketplace and what was needed, this kind of evolved into the vision that we have today. And we're
Yeah.
super excited about where we're going and what we're doing and who we're helping.
Yeah, that's really cool. I love that. I'm sure that your path hasn't been all roses, no thorns. So let's pause and talk a bit about the shadow side, the hard
Sure.
side, the rough side. And you can choose any point. You've had such a wide iteration of opportunities to stumble. So
Yeah.
why don't you pick your favorite flavor of stumble and tell us a little bit about that?
I will say taking a company from 0 to 1 is much different than taking a company from 1 to 5, right?
Mm,
Or 1 to 2 or 2 to 3. So buying a company versus starting a company, there are different challenges, right?
mm,
With starting a company, there's do you raise money or do you bootstrap it?
yeah,
And if you raise money, there are expectations with that money.
sure.
You have to have board of advisors. You have to hit certain milestones. You can be fired under certain circumstances. If you
Mm,
bootstrap it, it's like, okay, I have to wear a lot of hats initially. Can I bring in
yeah,
enough business? Who do I hire to be my partner? So I went through stumbling blocks with all of those. You
yeah,
know, do we hire the right people? Do we have the right product? Do we have the right product market fit? Those were all things that take time to figure out
yeah,
when you're building from 0 to 1. And so my thought was, well, if you buy a company, you're already going to have product market fit.
right.
There's a base of customers that are paying you for the service that you're offering. There comes with other stumbling blocks, like is your vision different than the people that sold you the business?
Sure.
What are the expectations from the employees? What do they expect to have in the future? What is their
Mm,
vision for what they've been told? Is your service offering up to par with what you expect it to be? Are you
yeah,
delivering what you're saying you're delivering? How is the culture? Is it remote or is it in office?
right.
And do the employees that work there, do they want to be in office? Do they want to be remote? So those were all stumbling blocks. And I say that because I bring up those topics because those are all things that I had to go through with each of the scenarios of building a company versus buying a company and figure out how to morph what was there into where we wanted to go.
Yeah,
Um, and they each come with their own challenges. And
right.
a lot of it just comes down to the path that you choose to take and then also human interaction, right? Just what
Yeah,
people actually want. Because, with the service business, you can't change things quickly. A lot of the revenue that comes in are from the relationships that people create. And so it's not like I can say, okay, we're gonna switch you out for this. Whereas in tech, when you're selling SaaS services, most companies don't care if you're buying or if they're working with one person or another, they care about the tech that they're actually using within their company to get the results that they want.
right, right. So it's about the actual, does the product do what you need it to do? And selling a service is a different model, right? Just a
Totally,
totally different thing. That's
completely,
it's the joy and also the strain. It's
for
all
sure.
rolled into one thing. I really loved how you noticed that, going from that 0 to 1, 1 to 5, 1 to 2 even can be such a wild journey. But
Hmm.
buying when you're already past all that initial build, you're still up for a wild journey, just a different flavor of wild.
Yeah, and I noticed I didn't there were certain things I didn't like about the tech world in the sense that um, I think this is changing, but it's still a large part of the tech world is raising money is a big part of it and trying to
Mhm.
become a big unicorn company.
Mm,
And what I didn't like about that is it forced growth for the sake of growth sake.
mm,
And at the end of the day, a lot of our investors, what I realized is after they would sell their company and have an exit, they would come and try and be investors. And
mhm.
they were really looking for cash flowing companies, which is what gave me the idea of like, well, do you really need to build a big billion-dollar company?
Right.
Or can you build a company that has a good lifestyle, that
Yeah.
gives employees a good lifestyle, a good
Yeah.
place to work? And it's not that you don't want to grow. Everybody wants
Sure.
to grow. Every
Sure.
company wants to grow, but you're growing at a lot more sustainable pace and
Yeah.
rate, and you can give quality service versus the entire focus of most companies that raise capital or venture capital um, is to pay back the investors as fast as possible. So that's
Mm,
the entire focus of the company. That's their North Star.
yeah.
Whereas a small company, you can have the North Star of, yes, you want to provide a good value to a company, but you want to provide a company that's kind of holistically a good place to work and
Yeah.
service clients in the right way.
Yeah. Yeah. You can grow more strategically and a little bit less. You don't have to say yes to everything. You don't have to take as many swings. You can be a little bit more careful on what you swing at because you don't need that payoff so soon, right? It's not that
That's right.
you don't want to be profitable, right? I
Right.
have had I worked a lot. I have still worked a lot in the world of very, very small businesses. And they have to learn that profit is not a dirty word. Right? So it's
Right.
just a different mindset when you have to say, okay, we can be profitable, but we don't have to reach that unicorn status. No, there's no pressure to do that, and that's kind of that's a gift, right? It's an interesting dynamic to be able to unplug from.
Absolutely. I agree.
So whenever the thorns and the roses, back to that again. What was one of those unexpected delights along the way that you just couldn't have foreseen along this journey that you felt like, wow, like that I didn't see coming? Because I think as we grow and build businesses, there are certain expected delights, certain things we expect to get out of it, certain things that
Hmm.
we could see coming. But I often find it's those unexpected ones that take us by surprise. And I'm curious what yours have been.
So I'll say going from 0 to 1, when you start with just, one or two people, and then you grow to 50, 100 employees, when I left, looking back and seeing all these people have jobs because of the value that we've created,
Yes.
right? That was really rewarding,
Yeah.
just to walk away and kind of take a step back and look at that and think, the things that as a group, as a team, we've been able to
Sure.
create has created value not only for our clients, but all the people that work here. And they really
Yeah.
like working here and they like working with each other and they like working with the clients. So that's a super rewarding experience is when you create a culture where people love what they're doing and they love
Mhm.
who they're working with.
Mm.
I didn't expect to have that, right?
Yeah.
I also didn't expect to get to a point where I was like, I would like to create a company that isn't based on just growing to $1 billion. That
Yeah.
was unexpected.
Yeah.
Um, I was kind of drinking the Kool-Aid as most people do when, they're young and they want to be successful and they want to grow and they're not sure what success means. And
Yeah.
so my idea of that kind of changed over time of
Right.
what is success and what does that mean? Do I need to have $1 billion or is $1 million okay? And so I think you kind of change what your priorities are over time, and try and stay grounded to who you are, right? And
Yeah.
leaving my tech company also, it felt like a part of my soul was gone when I left because
Right.
it's your baby and you
Right.
kind of grew this. And then when you leave, you feel like that was a part of your identity when you realize it really
Yeah.
wasn't.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not who you are. Who you are is how you treat people, what you do with your life, how you spend your time, but it's not what you did in your career and
Right.
the company that you grew. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of people that start companies and build them, they have that they feel that loss, like,
Oh, for sure.
oh, I'm giving this away, or
Oh,
I'm
for
selling
sure.
this, or I'm shutting, whatever it is, right? And so they always feel that that's a part of who they are when it's not. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, they did something great and it's something to be proud of. But so when I left, it took me a while to kind of reset and understand that I didn't need to be growing at 100% year over year. I didn't
Yep.
need to have an executive team where we were deciding on how to take over the world, you know? And it was okay to just take a step back and enjoy the time with my family and
Yeah.
enjoy the time of helping other people and doing other things that I was passionate about. And then figuring out what's next and really focusing on what I was passionate about, and what I wanted to do long term versus just trying to do the thing that's going to make the most money.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. There's a really big moment for me that I joined a mastermind early on in my entrepreneurial journey. And one of the ladies in the mastermind, it was all female entrepreneurs, had just sold her firm for way more than what she had ever anticipated. And she was, wealthy beyond her own imaginings. And she said that I should feel happy, but I'm feel really sad. And we had this really robust conversation, first mastermind of this group, about the grief and growth and the grief that you experience when you sell a company. And just that has always stayed with me. And it's been really helpful that I've advised clients over the years like, listen, there is going to be a period of grieving, right? Because you did lose something, even though you
Yeah.
traded it for way more
Right.
than what you wanted, that you had it and now you no longer have it. And so
Yep.
don't force yourself to, well, I should be feeling better. And so I'm not going to feel the feelings. Like the best way to get through it is just to feel the feelings, pass, let them pass and move through them because it's just a status change, right?
Yeah.
And there's a I was the founder, the CEO of this company, and now I'm nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing in air quotes, right? I
Yeah.
have no title, I have no people, I have no team, I have no mission, and it's very disconcerting when you
Yeah.
have that gap and you're not expecting it. And so that's, I think, one of the biggest pieces of advice when people are selling a company or are getting to that stage. You will probably grieve, and that's okay. It doesn't mean that anything has happened that's bad or wrong, but that's where you get to decide who you want to be, right? And if you can
That's
do
right.
that in advance of selling the company so you don't end up in the depths, maybe that's a little bit smarter move than experience it all of a sudden and not having a plan for it. But I think that's a really astute notice that there is this your identity gets caught up in what you're doing and what you're building, but you are not your company. And
No.
even whether you sell it or don't sell it, you are not your company. And having that psychological and emotional separation is really important. The more separate you can be, then the more you can become and the more it can become. Right. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think employees go through that same thing the longer they're with the
mm,
company. You know, when they
yeah,
leave a company,
yeah,
they think, well, I've spent years and years and years building these friendships,
sure.
right? And part of their identity is tied to the company they worked at.
Yeah,
So the shorter time they're at a company, the probably less their identity is tied
sure,
to
sure.
that company. And so I think that's the challenge is just learning that that's not who we are,
Right,
It's
right.
just a part of our lives. And when we move on, we just have to take the experiences that we had in those companies and apply them to the rest of our lives so we can be successful in the way that we see is successful.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, you bringing success back to the table leads me to my very final question. And for those of you who follow along with the show, here we go. So, Dave, with all the highs and lows and the exits and the purchases and the teams and the so on, do you
Hmm.
consider yourself to be successful?
Absolutely. I my success is with my family, right? It's like
Mm,
really I've been married for 22 years and I have
congrats.
three beautiful kids. And, I feel like God's given me a lot and I have a lot to be thankful for.
Mm,
And, we live in a great country and, we have a lot of freedoms. And so to me, that's success. At the end of the
mm,
day, everybody who has success to me is freedom to do things that you want to do, freedom to spend time with people that you want to spend time with. Um, and able to live the life that you want to live. And,
mm,
there's plenty of people that are very wealthy that aren't happy or consider
yeah,
themselves successful because
yeah.
they're alone and
Mm,
they're not with people that they enjoy to be with. And I think there's plenty of people that don't have a lot of money that are very, very successful and they're happy and they
yeah,
love, who they're spending time with. And so I think we just have to think about and reframe our version of success. And my version of success is not having, a huge house and traveling and lots of assets and working with a lot of people that don't really care who I am. They're there for the money.
mm,
it's spending time with people that we want to spend time with, that we choose to
Mm,
spend time with, right? And so that to me is the ideal success story.
I love that. I love that. So one of the things that I do for all of my guests is I backwards engineer a little success algorithm to see what are the pieces that need to add up to create some total of success for you. So
Hmm.
I jotted down some things. You said a lot of very cool stuff. So I my shorthand is a little squirrely over here on this piece of paper. So we shall see if I nailed it or not. So
Sounds good.
give it a listen and see what you think. And if there's a component missing, we can always add it. So
Okay, sounds
for
good.
Dave, success equals a thriving family, a heart of gratitude, rich relationships with the capacity to give time to them, the freedom to do what you want, the freedom to spend time how you desire, and the capacity to live the life you want to have.
I think you nailed it.
I love how much of this definition includes relationships, includes those. You talked quite a few times in our chat about, those who you spend time with, who's on your team, understanding what people want, and that underlying desire to have more meaningful connection both in your team and with the clients is it really shows up in this success algorithm for you too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the things I've noticed over my career is there will be people that will leave the companies that they work with, and they've worked with people for years and years, and then they'll never talk to them again.
Yeah.
And that's, it's a little strange, but I think at the same time, you really understand the people that you really had a relationship with and their
Mhm.
friends and the ones that aren't, right?
Yeah,
They're there to check a box. And so I think we have to really choose who we want to work with and be friends with,
right.
and be careful about that because it ultimately defines or is going to decide those relationships that carry on for years in our life.
Yep. I mean, it's the reason, season, and lifetime, right? Sometimes those
Yeah,
relationships you thought were more for a lifetime end up to be a reason, and the reason is work, right? And
yeah,
sometimes that can be a little bit confronting when you thought, oh, I thought we were going to be lifelong friends, and here we were just
right.
colleagues. Like it feels like I gave disproportionately to that relationship because I
Yep,
I thought it was a different dynamic. And I think so often people make a connection over a specific thing. And then once that thing is gone, they don't know how to reassert the connection. And
totally.
they avoid the awkwardness of doing it. And that avoidance becomes distance. And over distance, then you lose the relationship, which is, I agree with you. It's sad, right? That's unfortunate
It is.
that people
Yeah.
do that.
And there's
Yeah.
so many different ways you can connect with people, and it doesn't have
Yeah.
to be over just one thing.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. Well, this has been such a delight, Dave. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. Thank you for sharing your journey. I have really enjoyed some of these themes around honoring, understanding what people want and honoring that in how you build your company and how you design your life. And I've really appreciated this. So if people want to connect more with you, where should they find you?
They can find me on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn is the LinkedIn URL and David M. Gilbert. You can also email me at dave@proven.co, and I'd love to chat with you.
Wonderful. Wonderful. We'll put those in the show notes so that people have access to you. Thank you so much for being our guest.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. And for those of you listening at home, I just want to give you a quick word of exhortation that if you are finding that you do not have a life that you love, if you are not able to spend your time in the way that you wish and to develop the relationships that give meaning to your life, then this might be a good moment, beginning of the new year, to pause and reflect what needs to change, what needs to happen, what do you need to do to change that paradigm? Because it is not a life well spent to chase a financial number or to chase some external metric of success and to have abandoned relationships and loneliness at the heart of what you do because you didn't pause and take the time to do it on purpose. So, as we open up this year, give a look at your life and see if you are building the rich and robust relationships that make for a beautiful life. And if you are, pause, give some time to those relationships, pat yourself on the back. And if you are not, I would encourage you to make a plan so at the beginning of next year, you can say that you are. All right, my friends, until the next time, catch you on the next episode. Bye for now.